The transport ship Wandering Star shuddered as it passed near the red warning beacon. Owen pressed his face against the observation window, watching the green and brown planet below. Verdun. 7 looked peaceful from orbit, but every spacer knew better. The automated systems broadcast the same message they had for 15 years. Quarantined world, no landing permitted, death world classification. Owen had heard the stories during his trading runs. A research team went down there once, trying to catalog the forests and their creatures. None of them came back. Well, none except the bodies they recovered later. Torn apart by something the scientists called razorbacks, predators that hunted in packs and feared nothing. The planet got sealed off after that, marked as too dangerous for any known species. The ship lurched suddenly. Red lights flooded the corridor. Owen grabbed the wall as the deck tilted beneath his feet. Other passengers stumbled and fell. Somewhere behind him, the Chitauri security officer was clicking an alarm. A Quellan merchant splashed water from his breathing tank across the floor. Drive failure, the ship's computer announced in its calm voice. Critical malfunction detected. Orbit decay imminent. Owen's stomach dropped. Drive failure meant they were falling. And there was only one place to fall. The next 20 minutes blurred into chaos. The crew fought to control their descent, while passengers strapped into emergency seats. Owen found himself next to Amy, a young engineer with grease on her hands and fear in her eyes. Across from them, Captain Bryn worked his breathing apparatus faster than normal, the Quellan equivalent of panicked breathing. While going into the forest, Bryn gurgled through his translator. "May the currents have mercy." The ship hit hard. Metal screamed. Owen's harness cut into his chest. Then silence, broken only by the hiss of escaping pressure and the tick of cooling metal. They had survived the landing. Now came the hard part. Owen unbuckled with shaking hands. Around him, 12 crew and passengers did the same. 3 humans, including himself, 2 Quellan, 4 Chitauri, and 3 Vosk with their crystalline bodies reflecting emergency lights. None of them were soldiers. None of them were trained for this. The exit ramp lowered with a hydraulic whine. Owen stepped out into Verdun 7's air for the first time. It smelled like Earth's old forests, rich and green and alive. Too alive. Trees stretched hundreds of meters overhead, their trunks wider than his ship. Undergrowth formed walls of green in every direction. Something massive moved through those walls. Owen heard it, but could not see it. Then another movement, off to the left. Another behind them. The Chitauri security officer, whose name was Picker, activated his scanner. The device chirped once before the screen filled with red dots. Multiple large signatures, Picker clicked, surrounding our position. Estimate 15 to 20 contacts, each approximately 4 to 5 meters in length. Razorbacks. They had landed right in hunting territory. Bryn organized them quickly despite his fear. Half the group would work on the communications array. The other half would try to repair the drive, though everyone knew that was hopeless. They had maybe an hour before dark. Maybe less. Owen volunteered for communications duty. He had steady hands and knew enough about systems to be useful. Amy joined him, along with a Vosk named Granite who could interface directly with the ship's electronics through her crystalline structure. They worked fast, but not fast enough. The sun was already touching the horizon when Owen heard the first howl. It came from the trees to the north, a sound like metal tearing mixed with an animal's cry. Then another howl answered from the south, then the east, then the west. "They're coordinating," Amy whispered. "They're talking to each other." More howls joined the chorus. Dozens of them. The Razorbacks were gathering for a hunt, and the crew was their prey. Picker raised the ship's only weapon, a plasma cutter meant for repairs. It would kill maybe one Razorback before the others tore them apart. Bryn started praying in his native language, calling on water spirits that had no power here. Then something impossible happened that a shape emerged from the tree line. Human-sized, walking upright, moving with purpose. Owen's breath caught. It was a man, dressed in clothing made from treated hides and woven plant fibers. His hair was long, tied back with cord. His face was weathered but not old. He carried no weapons Owen could see, Behind him, 6 razorbacks stepped out of the forest. Owen had never seen a razorback except in warning videos. They were worse in person. 6-legged predators built like tanks with armored hides and heads designed for crushing. Their jaws could snap a person in half. Their claws could tear through ship plating. Each one massed as much as a ground transport. The man walked between them like they were pets. He raised one hand, made a gesture Owen did not understand. The razorback stopped. All 6 of them. They sat on their haunches like dogs, though dogs never had that many teeth. "Don't shoot," the man said in clear, unaccented English. "They won't hurt you unless I tell them to. And I'm not going to do that." He walked into the clearing, leaving the razorbacks at the forest edge. As he got closer, Owen could see his eyes. They were sharp, intelligent, and completely calm. This was not a madman. This was someone who knew exactly where he was and what he was doing. "My name is Daniel Croft," the man said. "I've been living on Verdun, 7 for 15 years. I saw your ship coming down and figured you'd need help. Looks like I was right." Bryn found his voice first. "The razorbacks. How are you controlling them?" Daniel glanced back at the 6 massive predators waiting patiently at the tree line. "I'm not controlling them. They're my pack. We've been together for a long time now." He looked at the damaged ship, at the frightened crew, at the darkening sky. "You've got bigger problems than understanding that right now. When full dark hits, things that make razorbacks look friendly come out to hunt. We need to secure this camp, and we need to do it fast." He turned to his pack and made another gesture. The razorbacks rose and began moving around the clearing's perimeter, their heads low and scanning. Marking territory, Owen realized, making this place their space. "You could trust them," Daniel said. "They won't let anything get close tonight. Tomorrow we'll talk about getting you off this rock alive. But first, we survive the night." He smiled slightly. "Welcome to Verdun, 7. Try not to die." Firelight painted shadows across Daniel's face as the crew gathered around the flames. Night had fallen completely, bringing sound from the forest that made everyone except Daniel flinch. The razorbacks formed a loose circle around the camp, their eyes reflecting firelight like yellow mirrors. Owen sat close to the fire, trying not to stare at the massive predators that could crush him without effort. Daniel had spent the last hour helping them fortify their position. He moved with confidence, showing them which plants could be woven into barriers and where to place scent markers that would keep smaller predators away. Now he sat on a piece of hull plating, eating dried meat he had pulled from a pouch on his belt. "You said you've been here 15 years, Amy ventured. "You were part of the original research team?" Daniel nodded. "Survival specialist. My job was teaching the scientists how to stay alive in hostile environments. Ironic, considering I'm the only one who made it." He took another bite, chewed slowly. "I was up in the canopy when it happened, studying the tree systems. Came back down to find everyone dead. Razorbacks had gotten through our defenses. They were young then, hadn't learned to be cautious around human technology." Bryn's translator gave his words a gurgling quality. "How did you survive? Without supplies or support?" "Barely," Daniel admitted. "First few weeks were the worst. I had basic gear, but no way to call for help. The razorbacks had destroyed our communications trying to get at the research team. I figured I had maybe a month before something killed me." He looked at the nearest razorback, a massive female with scars across her snout. "Then I met River. That's what I call her. Don't know if razorbacks have names for themselves, but she needed one." Ruth, the botanist, leaned forward. She had been quiet until now, taking notes on everything Daniel said. "You named them? You really think of them as individuals?" "They are individuals," Daniel said simply. "River there is cautious but curious. Mountain, the big male behind you, don't look directly at him. He's protective of the pack space. Storm is the young one, still learning. Each of them has a personality, preferences, moods. They're not mindless killers. They're intelligent pack hunters with complex social structures." He stood and walked to River. The razorback raised her head, and Owen tensed, waiting for violence. Instead, Daniel placed his hand on her armored snout. She made a sound like a purr mixed with a rumble. Her eyes half closed. "I found Storm first," Daniel continued, scratching behind River's jaw plates where Owen could see old scar tissue. "He was separated from his pack, injured. Broken leg, infected wounds. I should have left him. Should have seen him as a threat. But he was just a scared juvenile, and I still thought like a human back then. Amy stood carefully. May I? Daniel gestured. Slowly. Let her see your hands. Don't move fast. Amy approached like she was walking on ice. River watched her with one large eye, head tilted slightly. When Amy was close enough, she extended her hand. River sniffed it, her breath hot and smelling of raw meat. Then the massive predator lowered her head and allowed Amy to touch her. She's warm, Amy whispered. I thought the armor would be cold, but she's warm. They're warm-blooded, Daniel explained. Fast metabolism. Need to eat a lot to maintain their mass, which is why they hunt so efficiently. Storm couldn't hunt with a broken leg. I said it, brought him food, kept him alive. When River found us, I thought that was the end. A mother razorback protecting her young is the most dangerous thing on this planet. Picker clicked a question. His translator rendered it as, why did she not kill you? She watched me care for her son for 3 days before she made a decision. I think she understood that I wasn't hurting him. I was helping. When Storm could finally walk again, she brought me to her pack. Not as food, as something else. Something they didn't have a category for. Daniel returned to his seat, and Amy reluctantly stepped back from River. The razorback settled back into her watching position, alert but relaxed. I learned their language, Daniel continued. Not words, they don't have those. But body posture, scent marking, vocalizations. Each sound means something. A low rumble means contentment. A sharp bark is a warning. A howl with a falling pitch is calling the pack together. I started to understand how they saw the world. He pointed to the forest. They taught me which plants are edible, which are poison. They showed me water sources, safe sleeping spots, territories to avoid. I learned to move like they do, to read the forest like they read it. In return, I taught them things too. How to avoid certain dangers, I understood better than they did. How to use tools sometimes. Tools. Ruth's pen paused above her notebook. Daniel pulled something from his belt. In the firelight, Owen saw it was a blade made from a razorback's claw, bound to a wooden handle with woven fibers. Mountain shed this 2 years ago. I shaped it, made it useful. Now, when they find something they can't crack open, they bring it to me. Mutual benefit. Granite spoke, her voice chiming like struck crystal. You have become part of their pack structure. But how? You're not their species. Packs aren't about species, Daniel said. They're about trust, cooperation, and shared survival. The Razorbacks understand that better than most sapient beings. They judge based on behavior, not biology. I proved I could contribute. I proved I could be trusted. So I became Pack. Owen asked the question that had been bothering him. But you're still human. You still think like a human. Don't you want to leave? To go back to civilization? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. The fire crackled. Something screamed in the forest, cut off suddenly. River's ears swiveled toward the sound, then forward again when nothing emerged. I don't know what I am anymore, Daniel finally said. I remember civilization. Music, art, conversation, coffee. I miss those things. But I've changed. The forest changes you if you live in it long enough. I think differently now. I react differently. Part of me is still the man who came here 15 years ago. Part of me is something else. Something that belongs here. He looked at each of them in turn. That's why I came when I saw your ship falling. The human part of me remembered what it's like to be stranded and afraid. But the part of me that's become forest knew how to help. Together, those parts make what I am now. Movement from the darkness made everyone jump except Daniel. River stood quickly, her whole body tense. The other Razorbacks rose as well, forming a tighter circle. Mountain made a sound Owen had not heard before, a deep bass note that vibrated in his chest. Daniel stood in one fluid motion. Something's coming. Something big. He looked at the crew, and his expression was grim. Get inside the ship. Now, take the fire with you. Don't make any noise. What is it? Bryn asked. Something even my pack respects, Daniel said. And there's very few of those. Move. They scrambled for the ship as Daniel moved to stand with his pack. Owen looked back from the hatch and saw Daniel touch River's flank. The gesture was gentle, but it carried weight. The pack understood. They held their ground despite fear Owen could now read in their postures. Whatever was in the darkness, it was big enough to frighten the apex predators of Verdun 7. And Daniel was going to face it with them, standing between his pack and the unknown threat moving through the trees. In that moment, Owen understood. Daniel was not just a man who survived on a death world. He had become something unique, something the galaxy had never seen before. He was a bridge between human and wild, between civilization and primal nature, between two worlds that should never have met. Dawn brought relief and bad news. The creature from a night had circled their camp for hours before moving on. Daniel never said what it was, and nobody asked. They were alive. That was enough. Now Daniel stood with Captain Bryn and Owen, examining the ship's damaged systems. The verdict was clear even to Owen's untrained eye. The jump drive was destroyed beyond any field repair. Without it, they could not call for rescue. Without rescue, they were stuck on Verdun 7 until someone noticed their missed arrival and investigated. That could take months. There's another option, Daniel said, pointing to a display showing the ship's inventory. You need a crystal component to boost your communication range. There's a type that grows in the mountain caves, about 3 days' travel from here. Bryn's skin flashed a worried pattern. 3 days through that forest? We would never survive. You wouldn't, Daniel agreed. But with me and my pack, you might. I know the paths. I know what to avoid. We move during the day, stay hidden at night. We can make it there and back. They debated for an hour. Some crew wanted to stay, fortify the ship, wait for rescue. Others saw the logic in Daniel's plan. Finally, 6 volunteered for the journey. Owen, Amy, Bryn, Picker, Granite, and Ruth. The others would remain at the crash site, working on what repairs they could manage. They left at midday, when the forest was most active and therefore most predictable. Daniel's pack surrounded them, with River taking point and Mountain guarding the rear. Storm, the youngest, stayed close to Daniel, sometimes brushing against his leg as they walked. The forest was beautiful and terrifying. Trees reached so high Owen could not see their tops. Bioluminescent fungi grew in patterns Daniel read like road signs. They saw herbivores the size of buildings moving through the canopy, their calls echoing like whale song. Every few minutes, Daniel would pause, read something in the environment, and adjust their path. How do you know where to go? Ruth asked, making notes even while walking. The Razorbacks teach me, Daniel said. Watch River. See how her ears are forward. That means the path ahead is clear. If they swivel backward, danger behind. If they flatten, danger everywhere, and we freeze. After 15 years, I read them like you read a text display. They made good progress the first day. Daniel led them to a campsite he clearly used regularly, a natural shelter formed by massive roots. They ate rations and food Daniel provided, some kind of dried fruit that tasted sweet and spicy at once. The second day brought their first real test. Around midday, River stopped suddenly. Her ears swiveled forward, then back, then forward again. The entire pack froze. Daniel raised his fist, and the crew stopped immediately. What is it? Owen whispered. Another pack, Daniel breathed. Rival territory. Everyone stay calm. Do not run. Do not make aggressive moves. Through the undergrowth, 6 more Razorbacks emerged. They were larger than Daniel's pack, scarred from many fights. Their leader was a massive male with 1 broken horn and eyes that held cold intelligence. The 2 packs faced each other, and the tension made Owen's heart hammer. Daniel stepped forward. Amy grabbed his arm, but he gently removed her hand and walked between the packs. He was insane. He was going to get killed. Then Daniel did something that froze Owen's blood that he roared, not a human shout. A Razorback challenge call, perfect in pitch and tone and rhythm. The sound came from Daniel's chest, from his throat, from someplace Owen did not know humans could access. It was primal and terrifying and unmistakably a claim of territory and strength. The rival alpha approached. The 2 stared at each other, predator and human, for seconds that felt like hours. Then, slowly, the rival alpha dipped his massive head. A gesture of respect, maybe even acknowledgement. He turned and led his pack away into the forest. Daniel returned to the group. He was breathing hard, adrenaline clear in his shaking hands. That was alpha posturing, he explained. I made myself big, made myself strong. He decided we weren't worth the fight. Packs fight over territory and resources. We're just passing through, no threat to his hunting grounds. You spoke their language, Ruth said with wonder. Ow, practice, Daniel said. Years of practice. And understanding that language isn't just words. It's sound, yes, but also posture, scent, intent. I've been part of their world long enough that I can make those sounds convincingly. The rival Alpha respected that. They walked until dark, then made another camp. Daniel seemed restless that night. His pack felt it too. River kept standing, looking into the darkness, then lying down again. Mountain paced the perimeter. Storm pressed against Daniel's side. What's wrong? Amy asked. We're getting close to the mountains, Daniel said. There are things there that even razorbacks fear. Things from the deep places of the forest. The packs avoid those territories when they can. Then why are we going there? Picker clicked. Because you need that crystal, and because sometimes you have to go through dangerous places to survive. Story of my life on this planet. On the third day, they reached the mountains. The caves were visible from a distance, massive openings in the rock face that seemed to breathe cold air. Daniel's pack stopped at the base. River touched her nose to Daniel's hand, a gesture Owen now recognized as affection and worry. Daniel scratched under her jaw. They won't come inside, he said. The caves are home to things that hunt razorbacks. My pack will wait here, guard the entrance. We going alone. The temperature dropped as they entered. The walls were crystalline, refracting light into patterns that hurt Owen's eyes. Granite moved to the front, her crystalline body at home in this environment. She could sense the mineral compositions, feel vibrations through the stone. She led them deeper. The shriekers came without warning. One moment the ceiling was empty. The next, thousands of leathery wings unfolded. Blind bat-like creatures the size of cats, hunting by echolocation. They sensed the group's movement and dropped from their roosts. Daniel reacted instantly. He began to hum, a low tone that resonated in the cave. The shriekers paused, confused. Daniel slowly changed pitch, creating standing waves that disrupted their echolocation. He was making an acoustic barrier with nothing but his voice. Quietly, he whispered between breaths. Move slowly. Follow granite. They crept through the cave, while Daniel maintained his tone. Sweat ran down his face from the effort. His voice wavered once, and the shriekers stirred. Amy touched his shoulder, gave him an encouraging look. He steadied and continued. Granite found the crystal vein. Picker used his mandibles to carefully extract pieces while Daniel kept singing. It took 15 minutes that felt like hours. Finally, they had what they needed. Daniel led them back the way they came, his voice starting to crack from strain. They emerged into sunlight. Daniel stopped humming and doubled over, gasping. River was there immediately, pressing her head against his chest. He wrapped his arms around her neck and just breathed. How did you learn that? Ruth asked. The herbivores, Daniel said hoarsely. Some of them use subsonic calls to confuse predators. I studied them, learned the principle, adapted it. You learn or you die here. Those are the only options. They began the journey back to the crash site. They had the crystal. They had survived the caves. Daniel's pack surrounded them again, and Owen felt safer than he had since landing on Verdun. 7. But on the second day of return, everything went wrong. The attack came from ahead, not from the forest. Nets shot from concealed positions. Energy weapons hummed. River roared in pain as a stun bolt hit her flank. Figures in armor emerged from hiding. Poachers. They had come for razorback specimens and found a whole pack. One of Daniel's razorbacks was already dead, caught in a killing net. The others fought, but the weapons were designed for this purpose. Owen saw Daniel's face change. The calm survival expert vanished. Something cold and absolutely focused took his place. He touched Mountain's flank once, made a gesture the crew had never seen. The razorbacks melted into the forest like smoke. Stay down, Daniel told the crew. His voice was flat. Do not interfere. This is pack business. Then he disappeared into the trees, and the poachers learned what it meant to become prey. The forest fell silent. The poachers spread out in tactical formation, their armor marking them as professional hunters. There were 8 of them, Aldrich's mercenaries known for taking illegal contracts. They moved between the trees, scanning for the razorbacks that had vanished. One of them laughed, saying something about scared animals in a language Owen did not understand. They did not see Daniel. None of them did. He moved through the undergrowth like water, making no sound. Owen watched from where the crew had taken cover behind a fallen log. He could barely track Daniel's movement, and only because he knew roughly where to look. The poachers had no chance. The first one went down silently. His rifle just stopped working, its power cell removed by hands that appeared and vanished before he could react. He reached for his sidearm. A shape dropped from above, struck once, and the poacher crumpled. Daniel was gone before the body hit the ground. The second poacher turned toward the sound. A razorback appeared behind him, so close its breath moved his hair. He spun, raising his weapon. The razorback was already gone. He fired at nothing, and the shot revealed his position to Daniel, who came from the side, fast and low. Another poacher down. "They're being hunted," Amy whispered. "Daniel and the pack are hunting them." The remaining poachers bunched together, back to back in a defensive circle. Smart tactics against normal predators. Useless here. Daniel had taught his pack new strategies, and they had taught him theirs. The result was something neither human nor razorback, but a combination more dangerous than either. River appeared from the left, drawing fire. The poachers unloaded on her, but she was already moving, using the trees as cover. While they focused on her, Mountain struck from behind, not attacking, but herding them toward a specific direction. Storm blocked their retreat. They were being moved like prey into a killing zone. Daniel appeared directly in their path. He held the claw blade from his belt in one hand. In the other, he held something that made Owen's stomach turn. It was a poacher's helmet, crushed and empty. "Leave," Daniel said. His voice carried no anger, no emotion at all. That somehow made it more terrifying. "Leave this planet. Leave my pack alone. This is your only warning." One of the poachers raised his weapon. River hit him from the side, moving faster than anything that size should move. She did not kill him, just pin him down with one massive paw. Her jaws were inches from his helmet, her breath fogging his visor. "We're registered hunters," the lead poacher said, try to sound brave. "Galactic commerce laws allow collection of non-sapient fauna for research purposes. This planet is quarantined," Daniel replied. "Those laws don't apply here. And the Razorbacks are sapient where it counts. They think, they plan, they care for their pack. You're not hunters. You're poachers who came to steal from my family." He gestured, and River released her captive. The poachers scrambled backward. Daniel pointed toward where their ship must be hidden. "I'm letting you live because killing you would bring more hunters. Tell your employers that Verdun 7 is protected. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that the human who lives with the Razorbacks will kill anyone who threatens his pack." The poachers ran. They left their weapons, their gear, everything. Within minutes, Owen heard a ship's engines firing up, then the sound of it leaving atmosphere. Daniel stood still for a moment, then his shoulders sagged. The cold focus left him, and suddenly he was just a man again. He walked to where the dead Razorback lay tangled in the killing net. It was one of the younger pack members, not quite adult. Daniel knelt beside it and placed his hand on its flank. The pack gathered. They touched the body with their noses, made sounds Owen had not heard before. Low, mournful sounds. They were grieving. Mountain laid down next to the body. River sat on Daniel's other side, pressing against him. Storm whimpered. Amy approached slowly. She knelt beside Daniel. Neither spoke. They just sat with the pack, sharing the moment of loss. After a time, Daniel stood. "We need to move. The body will attract scavengers. The pack needs to perform their rites away from here." He looked at the crew. "Give us an hour. We'll catch up." The crew withdrew, giving Daniel and his pack privacy. They set up a temporary camp and waited. Owen could not stop thinking about what he had witnessed. Daniel had moved through that forest like he was part of it. The Razorbacks had coordinated with him perfectly, reading his intentions without words, executing a plan that mixed human intelligence with predator instinct. He's changed so much, Ruth said quietly. 15 years of adaptation. His body language, his movement patterns, even his thinking. He processes threats like a predator now. But he still made a choice, Amy pointed out. He could have killed those poachers. The pack would have followed his lead. Instead, he let them go. That's human morality mixing with predator pragmatism. When Daniel and the pack returned, Daniel's eyes were red. He said nothing about what had happened in that hour. The pack formation had changed, though. Where there had been 7 Razorbacks, now there were 6. They continued toward the crash site in silence. That night, Daniel sat apart from the fire. Owen joined him, offering water from his canteen. Daniel took it with a nod of thanks. "I'm sorry about your pack member," Owen said. "Her name was Cloud," Daniel replied. "I called her that because she was light-colored, almost gray. She was curious, always investigating new things. She would have liked you." He took a drink. This is what living on a death world means. Loss is part of the cycle. The pack understands that better than I do, even after 15 years. "You protected us today," Owen said. "You and your pack. Those poachers would have killed us too, eventually. We were witnesses." "I protected my pack," Daniel corrected. "You're part of that now, whether you realize it or not. The Razorbacks accepted you. That means you're under pack protection. That's how it works here." They reached the crash site late the following day. The crew who had stayed behind had made impressive improvements. They had reinforced the hull breaches, organized supplies, even created a basic defensive perimeter using ship parts and forest materials. The reunion was loud and relieved. Granite immediately began work on installing the crystal into the communication array. Amy helped, their hands working in synchronization. Within hours, they had the device powered and functional. The first transmission attempt failed. The second reached a relay station. The third made contact with a rescue vessel that happened to be 2 systems away. Help was coming. 3 days, maybe 4, that the crew celebrated. They would survive. They would leave Verdun 7. For most of them, that was everything they wanted. But Owen watched Daniel, standing at the edge of the clearing, his pack around him, and wondered what the man who had become part of the forest would choose when the rescue ship arrived. That night, as if the universe wanted to test them one more time, River began to pace. Mountain joined her. Within minutes, the entire pack was agitated. They formed a tight circle around the camp, facing outward, bodies tense. "What is it?" Bryn asked. Daniel was already moving, checking sight lines and scent markers. His expression grew grim. "Something I've only seen once before. Something that comes from the deepest part of the forest, where even Razorbacks don't go." "What?" Amy pressed. Daniel looked at her, and his eyes held a fear she had not seen before. "A void stalker. They hunt by absorbing light and sound. Once it gets close enough, you won't see it, hear it, or sense it until it's too late. They're ambush predators that feed on neural energy. They're attracted to concentrations of intelligent life." He looked at the ship, at the lights they had restored to power. "Our crash, our technology, our minds. We're a beacon to it, and it's coming to feed." Daniel moved fast, giving orders in a tone that made everyone obey without question. They covered the ship's exterior lights with fabric and debris. They gathered insulating materials from the forest, a specific bark that Daniel said disrupted electrical signals. They worked until the ship's interior was lined with the stuff, creating a barrier between their neural activity and the outside world. Void stalkers hunt by sensing electrical fields, Daniel explained as they worked. Specifically, the electrical activity of nervous systems. Brains are like beacons to them. We need to mask our presence, make ourselves invisible to its senses. Granite used her knowledge of electronics to rig the ship's remaining power cells into decoys. They placed them around the clearing's perimeter, creating false signatures of neural activity. It was a gamble. Either the Void Stalker would investigate the decoys first, giving them time, or it would sense the deception and come straight for the real targets. Night fell completely. They killed all lights. In the darkness, Daniel positioned his pack in a defensive perimeter. But even River seemed uncertain, her usual confidence replaced by wariness. Owen understood. The Razorbacks were apex predators, but the Voidstalker was something else. Something that predated predators. The temperature dropped. Not gradually, but suddenly, as if someone had opened a door to deep space. Owen's breath misted. Beside him, Amy shivered despite her jacket. Bryn's breathing apparatus began to frost over. Then the sound disappeared. Not reduced. Gone. Owen tried to speak, but he could not hear his own voice. He saw others trying the same, mouths moving silently. The Voidstalker's field had reached them, absorbing sound as efficiently as it absorbed light. In the absolute darkness and silence, time became meaningless. Owen felt his heart beating, but could not hear it. He felt his hands shaking, but could not see them. The sensory deprivation was complete and terrifying. Panic threatened to overwhelm him. A hand touched his shoulder. He jerked, nearly screamed, but the hand was warm and steady. Daniel. In the darkness, Owen felt rather than saw Daniel move among the crew, touching each person, grounding them, reminding them they were not alone. Then Daniel did something that made no sense. Owen felt him move away, felt the slight vibration of footsteps on the ship's deck. Daniel was leaving. He was walking out into the Voidstalker's hunting ground. Owen wanted to stop him, but he could not move, could not call out. He could only wait in the terrible silence and darkness, wondering if Daniel had just sacrificed himself to save them. Time passed. Minutes or hours, Owen could not tell. Then, gradually, sensation returned. First sound, faint and distant. Then light, dim but present. The Voidstalker's field was withdrawing. The crew stumbled to the ship's entrance. Outside, they found Daniel standing in the clearing, alive and unharmed. The Razorbacks surrounded him, pressing close. River had her head on his shoulder, a gesture of relief so human-like it was startling. What happened? Amy's voice was hoarse from not using it during the silence. Daniel looked exhausted. I walked into its field. Let it sense me fully. Let it understand what I am. He sat down heavily. Voidstalkers are the forest's ultimate filter. They remove threats to the ecosystem, things that don't belong. They test whether something has earned the right to be here. How do you pass that test? Picker clicked. You accept it. You don't fight, don't run, don't panic. You stand in the darkness and trust the forest. Trust that if you've lived in harmony with this world, it will recognize you as part of itself. Daniel laughed, a tired sound. I've been here 15 years. I've lived with the Razorbacks, learned the forest's ways, respected its rules. The Voidstalker sensed that. It decided I belong. And the rest of us? Bryn asked. You're with me. Under my protection, in a sense. The Voidstalker accepted that. For now, Daniel looked at the ship. When the rescue vessel comes, you leave. Don't stay longer than necessary. The forest's patience has limits. Dawn arrived slowly, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. The rescue ship's message came through the repaired communications array. They would arrive in 2 days. The crew celebrated again, but the celebration was more subdued this time. The Voidstalker's visit had reminded everyone where they were. Daniel spent those 2 days helping them prepare. He showed them what supplies to gather from the forest for the journey. He taught them emergency signals using Razorback calls, just in case someone ever needed help on Verdun 7 again. He gave them knowledge, and the crew absorbed it gratefully. On the last night, they sat around the fire one final time. The Razorbacks had relaxed, sensing that the immediate danger had passed. Storm was playing with a piece of hull plating, batting it around like a toy. River dozed with her head near Daniel's leg. Will you come with us? Amy asked the question everyone wanted answered. Daniel was quiet for a long time. I've thought about it. Part of me wants to see other humans, hear music, taste coffee, experience civilization again. He stroked River's armored hide. But I don't know if I can leave. This is my pack. This is my home. I'm not sure civilization would understand what I've become. You could teach others, Ruth suggested. Help the galaxy understand death worlds better. Show them that adaptation is possible. Maybe, Daniel said, or maybe I'd be studied like a curiosity, poked and analyzed and asked to perform tricks. Show us how you control the dangerous animals, Daniel. Demonstrate that roar again, Daniel. He shook his head. I've had enough of being a research subject. Owen understood. Daniel had found something on Verdun 7 that most people search for their entire lives. Purpose, belonging, a place where he fit perfectly. Leaving that would be like tearing off part of his soul. The rescue ship arrived at midday. It was a proper galactic survey vessel, large and equipped for extraction operations. The captain's message was professional but urgent. They needed to leave quickly. The quarantine on Verdun 7 was still in effect, and they were violating it just by being here. The crew gathered their minimal possessions. They had survived with almost nothing for days, and material goods seemed less important now. Owen found himself reluctant to leave. This planet had nearly killed him, but had also shown him something profound about adaptation and survival. The rescue ship's captain descended in a shuttle, accompanied by armed security. She took one look at Daniel and the Razorbacks and reached for her weapon. Daniel raised his hands peacefully. "They're not a threat," he said. "They're my pack. They won't attack unless I tell them to, and I'm not going to do that." The captain was skeptical until her security team scanned the Razorbacks and found them completely non-aggressive despite being surrounded by potential prey. She turned to Daniel with new interest. "You're Daniel Croft, the lost researcher from 15 years ago." "I wasn't lost," Daniel corrected. "I was exactly where I needed to be." The captain made an offer. Galactic Survey wanted to establish a proper research station on Verdun 7. They needed someone who understood the ecosystem, who could ensure they did not repeat the mistakes of the first expedition. They needed Daniel. "I'll do it on my terms," Daniel said. "No weapons development. No exploitation. The Razorbacks and other species are partners, not subjects. Research benefits the ecosystem as well as galactic knowledge. And the station stays small. This planet's balance is delicate." The captain agreed, perhaps too quickly. But Owen saw calculation in her eyes. She saw value in Daniel, in his knowledge, in what he represented. The first human to successfully integrate with a Death World's ecosystem. As the crew boarded the shuttle, Amy hung back. She approached Daniel one last time. "I want to come back. If they establish that station, I want to be assigned here. Learn from you. Learn from the forest." Daniel smiled. "You be welcome. The pack likes you. That's high praise." The shuttle lifted off. Through the window, Owen watched Daniel standing with his Razorbacks. The man raised one hand in farewell, and the pack sat around him, heads raised, watching the shuttle rise. It was a powerful image. Human and predator, separate but united, representing something new in the galaxy's understanding. As Verdun 7 shrank behind them. Owen knew the crew would carry this experience forever. They had seen what humans could become when stripped of technology and forced to adapt. They had witnessed the transformation of civilization into something primal and then back into something new. A bridge between worlds. 6 months passed before the Galactic Survey returned to Verdun 7. Owen was aboard the new research vessel, having requested assignment specifically for this mission. Amy was there too, her enthusiasm for the project clear in every briefing. They were part of a small, carefully selected team. 8 researchers total, each chosen for their ability to respect boundaries and learn from hostile environments. The ship entered orbit, and Owen pressed against the observation window like he had done half a year ago. But this time he was not afraid. He was eager. Somewhere down there, Daniel and his pack were waiting. They landed in the same clearing where the original crash had happened. Daniel emerged from the forest before they finished shutting down the engines. He looked different. His hair was shorter, tied back more neatly. He wore clothing that was still made from hides and plant fiber, but more refined. He had clearly spent time preparing for their arrival. Behind him came the Razorbacks. Owen recognized River immediately, her scarred snout distinctive. Mountain followed, massive and alert. Storm had grown, no longer a juvenile, but a full pack member. And there were 3 new faces, younger Razorbacks, watching the humans with curious but cautious eyes. The pack expanded. Daniel called out his greeting. River had pups. Well, not pups exactly. Razorbacks don't birth live young. They're more reptilian than mammalian. But 3 survived to join the pack. It's been an interesting few months. The research team disembarked slowly, following the protocols Daniel had transmitted. Move calmly. Keep hands visible. Let the razorbacks approach first. Don't stare directly at them. Basic predator etiquette that Daniel had codified into official procedures. Amy was the first to approach River. The massive razorback remembered her, touching her nose to Amy's extended hand. The young engineer laughed with delight and relief. I wasn't sure she'd remember me. Razorbacks have excellent memories, Daniel said. They remember faces, scents, interactions. River knows you helped me in the caves. That matters to her. Over the next few weeks, Daniel trained the research team in forest survival. They learned to read the razorback's body language, to identify safe and dangerous plants, to move through the undergrowth without triggering territorial responses from other creatures. They learned to think like the forest thought, to see themselves as part of the ecosystem rather than observers of it. Owen struggled at first. His scientific training wanted to categorize and analyze everything. Daniel kept telling him to just experience it instead. The forest doesn't care about your categories. It operates on different principles. Hunger, territory, survival. Learn those principles first. Analysis comes later. The research station took shape slowly. Daniel insisted on using local materials wherever possible, keeping the technological footprint minimal. Solar panels were positioned to not disrupt bird migration routes. The buildings were built around existing trees rather than clearing them. Every decision considered the ecosystem's needs alongside human needs. Point one evening, Owen found Daniel sitting on the station's incomplete deck, watching the sunset. River lay beside him, her breathing slow and content. Owen joined them, careful not to disturb the razorback. Do you regret staying? Owen asked. You could have left with us. Seen the galaxy again. Daniel considered the question. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like. To go back to Earth, see what's changed, reconnect with that part of myself. He scratched behind River's jaw plates, and she rumbled happily. But I made the right choice. This is where I belong. The pack needs me, and I need them. We're family in the way that matters most. The galaxy is interested in you, Owen said. The reports from our expedition have caused quite a stir. People want to know how you did it. How you survived 15 years, and not just survived, but thrived. Some are calling you the first human to truly integrate with a death world ecosystem. People always want easy answers, Daniel replied. There's no trick to it. No special technique. You adapt or you die. I adapted. I let go of the assumptions I brought from civilization and learned from the actual teachers. The razorbacks, the forest, the death world itself. That's all. But Owen knew it was not that simple. He had watched Daniel work with the new research team. The man moved with a fluidity that seemed supernatural. He could predict animal behavior with uncanny accuracy. He read the forest like others read books. 15 years of immersion had changed him fundamentally. A howl echoed from the forest. Not a razorback call, something else. The pack immediately went alert. Mountain stood and positioned himself between the station and the sound. The three young pack members moved behind River, following her lead. Daniel stood calmly. I was wondering when they'd come investigate. Everyone stay inside the station. Keep the lights low. Let me handle this. What is it? Amy asked from the doorway. Another pack. From the deep forest. They've noticed our presence and come to establish boundaries. Standard territorial behavior. Daniel walked toward the forest edge. This is important. This is me telling them that the station is under pack protection, that we're part of the forest balance, not a threat to it. Owen watched through the station's window as Daniel met with a rival pack's alpha. There was posturing, vocalizations, the subtle language of predator diplomacy. The meeting lasted 20 minutes. Finally, the rival alpha made a gesture that Owen had learned meant acknowledgement of territory. The pack withdrew. Daniel returned to the station. We're good. They understand we're here, that we're limited to this clearing, and that River's pack claims this territory. As long as we respect those boundaries, they'll leave us alone. Break those boundaries, and they'll come back to enforce them. The research continued. Amy developed a device that could translate basic razorback vocalizations into patterns researchers could understand. Ruth cataloged hundreds of plant species, many with medical applications. A Chitauri biologist named Weaver studied the symbiotic relationships between four species. Slowly, carefully, they built a body of knowledge about Verdun, seven that did not come from dissection or exploitation, but from respectful observation and integration. Point one morning, 6 months into the station's operation, an alert came through. A ship had entered orbit without authorization. Poachers again, or perhaps just scavengers hoping to collect specimens while the official research team provided cover. Daniel's expression went cold, that same focused calm Owen had seen when the first poachers attacked. How many? One ship, crew of maybe 6. The communications officer pulled up skin data. They're landing on the far side of the forest, outside our patrol range. Daniel looked at River. Some communication passed between them that required no words. The Razorback stood, and the pack assembled. Daniel turned to Owen. I'm going to send them a message. The forest is not open for exploitation. It's protected, and that protection has teeth. You can't go alone, Amy protested. Take security, take weapons. I'm not alone, Daniel said simply, gesturing to his pack. And I don't need weapons. I am the weapon. That's what 15 years on a death world makes you. He left with the pack, moving into the forest with the confidence of someone who owned every step. The research team could only wait and monitor. Hours passed. Then Daniel's signal reappeared on their tracking systems. Moving back toward the station, he returned at dusk. The pack was unharmed. Daniel carried a data chip, their ship logs and recordings, evidence of their illegal operation. I've sent them off-planet with the same message I gave the first group. Verdun, 7 is protected territory. The Razorbacks and I enforce that protection. Come back, and we won't be so gentle. Owen took the data chip. You're becoming something the galaxy has never seen before. Not just a survivor, but a guardian. A human who speaks for a death world ecosystem. Someone has to, Daniel said. Death worlds can't defend themselves against exploitation. They can kill individuals, sure, but organized operations with technology? That requires someone who understands both sides. Someone who could be savage when needed, but also negotiate and reason. Amy approached with excitement in her eyes. I've been analyzing the pack dynamics. Daniel, the young ones are starting to mimic your behavior. They're learning human-style problem solving from watching you. And you're learning new hunting techniques from them. It's mutual evolution, accelerated by direct contact. Daniel smiled. That's what adaptation really means. Not one side changing to match the other, but both sides growing together, creating something new. As night fell, the research team gathered around a fire outside the station. It had become a ritual, this evening meeting where they shared observations and stories. Daniel sat with River beside him, Storm's head resting on his lap. The other Razorbacks dozed in a loose circle, content and secure. I've been thinking, Daniel said, about what happens next. This station is working because we're keeping it small, keeping it respectful. But I know the galaxy. Success breeds expansion. More researchers want to come. More stations will be proposed. Eventually, someone will suggest colonization. You're worried about the ecosystem being disrupted, Ruth said. I'm worried about losing what makes this place special. Verdun, 7 is a death world, yes. But it's also a fully functional, balanced ecosystem that humans can learn from if we approach it right. If we start treating it like a resource instead of a teacher, we'll ruin it and lose that chance to learn. Owen leaned forward. So what do you propose? Limits. Hard limits on human presence here. Keep it to researchers who've proven they can adapt and respect the environment. No commercial operations. No military bases. No expansion beyond what the forest can absorb without changing. Daniel looked at each team member. Make Verdun, 7 a preserve. A place where humanity learns to coexist with death world ecosystems instead of conquering them. That's a revolutionary idea, Amy said. Most death worlds are either quarantined completely or open for military exploitation. You're proposing a middle path. I'm proposing we acknowledge that humans have a unique ability to adapt to hostile environments. Earth was a death world once. Our ancestors survived it, learned from it, became who we are because of it. Other species in the galaxy didn't have that experience. We did. That gives us a responsibility to protect these places, not exploit them. The conversation continued into the night. Plans formed for how to present Daniel's vision to Galactic Survey, how to protect Verdun. 7. While still allowing careful research. It was ambitious. It might fail. But sitting there with razorbacks sleeping nearby and the forest alive with night sounds, it felt possible. Months turned into years. The research station became permanent, but stayed small. Daniel trained new researchers, and Amy became his primary assistant. Together, they developed protocols for Death World integration that were adopted by survey teams across the galaxy. River's pack grew. New generations of razorbacks were born, never knowing a time when humans weren't part of their forest. And Daniel changed too. Not physically, though the years added a few gray hairs. But his understanding deepened. He learned that being a bridge between worlds meant constant work, constant vigilance, and constant growth. He learned that protection sometimes meant saying no to good people with good intentions. He learned that some things were worth defending absolutely. One evening, standing at the forest's edge with River beside him and stars appearing overhead, Daniel thought about the scared researcher who had crashed here so many years ago. That person had died in a way. The forest had tested him, broken him down, and rebuilt him into something new. He was no longer just human. He was no longer just a member of a Razorback pack. He was both and neither. He was what adaptation looked like when you embraced it fully. He was the answer to a question the galaxy did not know it was asking. Can humans live with death worlds instead of against them? The answer was yes. And Daniel Croft was living proof that share artifacts, download all story outline document.